Our next speaker is a pioneer and pusher of boundaries between art, motion, and reality, working with names like the London Symphony Orchestra, Nike, and Björk. Tobias Gremler answers the question, what would happen if I took LSD at the Science Museum? Please welcome the indescribable Tobias Gremler!
Today I would like to share some of my work and give some insights on the artistic practice and creative concepts and workflows behind it. And I would like to start with a project I did for the Hong Kong Heritage Museum, which was a visualization of Kung Fu motions. And while doing research for this project, I realized that although Kung Fu is very physical, it has quite some immaterial aspects. So I kind of created a visualization that almost doesn't show the body, but shows kind of the motion itself and brings that into attention. Another important aspect of Kung Fu is speed of motion, and in this visualization I showed only those body parts which has a very high velocity, while blending or fading away the body parts which are actually not moving or slow motion or have slow motions at all. In this variation, there is no body visible throughout the whole image, but what you see is the motion propagating in empty space. So all the turbulences which are caused by the different movements are moving in empty space. This is a similar principle, but in this action, the Kung Fu master is holding a weapon, a trident, and all the motions and the particles are being bursted within or towards the direction of the weapon. And so after a certain time, I wanted to reintroduce more physicality to this embodiment. So I created some kind of a structure, almost architectural, that shows the embodiment, but also considers the temporal aspects of motion and makes it part of the embodiment. And after a while, I started to dissolve this structure again. I found that thank you. I found that calligraphy has quite some similarities with Kung Fu. Although the end product is like a piece of paper, but you can see all the dynamics in the drawing. And I wanted to do or use similar principles in visualizing the act of painting or drawing calligraphy. So I analyzed and decomposed the different strokes, the curves. There are a lot of elements which has to be considered, like the amount of ink that is in the brush, or the angle and the speed of the pen. And so there are so many variables which are so intuitively then finally being used by the calligrapher in order to create its art. And what you see here is like a deconstruction of the different character along the horizontal axis, and I gave it even some kind of a phonetical aspect while changing the pitch along the y-axis. So these principles of deconstructing and reconstructing elements is something I use very much in projects, especially at the beginning, to some kind of exploration process of the elements I'm dealing with or I'm going to work with. And this work was a watch design, and I did 10, 15 years ago. And I wanted to redesign actually the way how we perceive time, because what we see here is actually not how time looks. Time doesn't have any visual representation at all. It's just something that has been created because the clockwork and the engineering behind a clock or a watch is based on wheels. So this is why we are thinking time has been read or has been represented by a circular arrangement. So I was trying to question it and deconstruct it and see how I can minimize it in a way that it also uses less dimensions, and I managed to create something in one dimension that shows time here, actually night, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, then it gets noon and it gets white. So I kind of mimicking the hours, day and night light, and now it's afternoon till 12 o'clock in the night and the watch becomes black again. And of course this is not something we are used to. How to read time, but in my opinion it's a very intuitive way, and if you would have the choice or not known the circular arrangement, probably it would be easier to read time in that way. And this is the packaging of the watch, and if you look at it from the top, it serves a little bit like a manual, so you can actually see how time is displayed in a traditional way. And if you change the perspective to the side, you see the abstractation of it, so the principles I have used for this watch to represent time. Now here different case studies with the hours indicators on top and on bottom, and the minutes and second handles. This is a collaboration I did with the Chinese dancer Liko, and like the watch, I kind of sliced her body in different time zones, and while she's moving, her body is kind of banding, or the movements itself are also banding in time, and sometimes she's intersecting with the past or the future representation of her. The next work is the one for the London Symphony Orchestra, and like time, of course, music is invisible as well, and but the orchestra wanted to have a visual communication, and then the agency asked me to use the motion of the conductor in order to create a dynamic visualization or representation of the music, and it finally serves as for the visual communication. And of course, as all the dynamics of the composition are incorporated in the movements of the conductor, it holds, or they travel within the images and this kind of animations. I'm very interested in anatomy of the body, and this is a study on fascia, which is like a fabric that surrounds our muscle and bone system. So it's a very stretchable, elastic fabric that interconnects most body parts and even sometimes organs, and communicate between them and stretches along with the different motions of the body. This is about the central nervous system, a different approach. I was kind of interested in that very moment at the beginning when the neuron starting to grow and spreading out, and then sensing the outer world and bring these senses back into the brain, and maybe at this moment for the first time something like consciousness evolve, and I was just thinking how would that had felt or felt. And this is a bit related to what we have seen before. Is a work called Fields, which I created for the Venice Biennale, and it's an installation based on two semi-transparent screens, and on one screen the inner world is represented, and on the other screen the surrounding of this world or this body is represented by some kind of a magnetic field-looking structure that reacts to the motion of the body itself. And if you walk around that installation, you can kind of view the overlay between these two worlds, the inner and the outer. And these structures to me are very important because they shift the attention from the center of the body towards the negative space that interconnects our body with others, or our body or ourselves with the environment, and which I think is very important to acknowledge. And I also, when I do this kind of exhibitions, I use a lot of elements from theater, like scenographic elements, smoke, lightning, etc., because I want to bring in more dynamic elements to an exhibition space, but also give the audience the freedom to walk through it and look at it from different perspectives, which is not possible, for example, if you are sitting in a theater and have to stay on a chair and watching like a linear narrative. So what we see here are bodies similar to those which are behind these structures in fields. Now they are more clear, but unlike the Kung Fu bodies, they don't have any inner forces. So they're controlled and moved by outer forces and turbulences, and they collide with each other, and while doing so, act a little bit like floating in water. And this is a study actually I did with the concept I had in mind to create some kind of a meta creature that is controlled by a dance ensemble, and it involves all the different motions and of the dancers and interconnects them into one structure. And while doing so and being observed by the dancers start to collaborate through that meta creature or meta organism and synchronize themselves while adapting their motions towards the collaborative element in that structure. So here we see those two dances combined into one dancer in the middle. These principles are very interesting to me in terms of the question of how we perceive ourselves and how maybe the perception of ourselves alters if we are represented maybe in a different way, virtually through an avatar or another embodiment. And I had a very insightful experience while doing an experiment together with my most talented student, Adam Zecke, trying to figure out how fast we connect to a virtual representation and how that can be twisted if the virtual representation, like in here, the point cloud, suddenly does things that are unexpected. And I let this video play self-explaining, and there is a glitch at a certain moment which causes some unexpected behavior.
You can go in between the red and the normal Kinect to switch partly.
Thanks for doing a video, Edu. I can see you. I just stepped outside of my body again, and I'm walking there.
Yeah, the Oculus is not tracked anymore.
Yeah, I know, but this This is fucking weird. I'm walking there. I'm walking away. But my...
Hey, stop. The wires are getting...
Shit. Okay. Maybe that's enough for now.
Okay, good. So you can remove the headset. You want to tell something about your experience?
That was really weird. I mean, that part when I saw that I'm standing here and my body was walking away there. I can't really describe that.
So, thank you. I really also have to acknowledge Adam, because it's something he was just the test person, so he together developed the setup and everything, and then either me or he was kind of testing with it, and then this glitch is sometimes happening, and they lead to very interesting insights. And in the next work, I actually wanted to create something similar, but without the necessity of wearing headsets, because sometimes I think it's annoying to, wear VR glasses or all these headsets. So I wanted to create some VR or AR experience without any electronics, or wearable electronics at least. So I worked with a research lab and had access to kind of a motion tracking studio, and so I used the live tracking of the dances and the projection mapping of the virtual avatars on this flexible stage design I did, and created some kind of an experience related or similar to VR that can be shown in space, in reality somehow. And yeah, I also become very fascinated by animal movement after working with dancers a lot, because to me animal movements are very pure, very elegant, and I wanted to grab this, and I also wanted to translate the different way how they perceive their environments, like if the smell or the sensoric system is different than ours, maybe it can be amplified through their outer shape somehow. And so I also changed the surface so they don't look like the animals we know, but after a certain time I felt I have to kind of release them in nature, and I took some videos of my favorite hiking paths in Hong Kong, and yeah, released them there. And this is actually something very natural to me, because when I was a little child, I often walked in nature together with my mother, who was a photographer. And we had this little game in which we looked at details of either rocks or trees, and when we found some interesting structures, we imagined what can be behind it or what can evolve from it. And yeah, it is like the world becomes a canvas of our imagination, and I think that was very inspiring to me, and maybe still is a very inspiring experience. Also, this sometimes these creatures I do, there are half human or half animal or half whatever, and so they do not have a clear identity. And when they go social, they especially when they go viral, people start to assume and try to categorize them and think, oh, maybe they are friendly or unfriendly or hurtful, or they want to pet them. And so, but they're kind of virtual, so they're not existing. They're just containers in that regard, to become to be containers or mirrors of the assumptions of the people who are watching them. And this is a feeling I know from myself, because I'm a mixed race and I grew up in a society where I look quite different from the rest of the citizens. And if that is the case, people start to categorize you, which is not possible, not clearly, and then certain assumptions come into place. And yeah, I like if these assumptions are being kind of simulated with those virtual creatures somehow. Because it also, sometimes it tells more about the people who are looking at you than about yourself. It's really more like a mirror and a different, also a filter how things are perceived in terms of just feeling or understanding certain reactions. So this is a range of collaborations with different musicians, and what we have seen before is collaboration with Jeff Cheng. He's a Taiwanese singer, and this is for concert visuals for Tat Ming Pair, which is a Hong Kong band. And so I really love to collaborate with musicians, and when I do so, I pay a lot of attention to the lyrics and the mood of the song, and then I try to develop a visual narrative that kind of amplifies certain structures, but also certain messages in the song, but in a different way. So it's not kind of yeah, it adds an element to it that justifies it to become visual. This is for another Hong Kong singer called Miriam. I was a musician myself before I started with visual media, like 33 years ago, and so music resonates a lot in me. And when I did music at a certain time, I actually started playing in bands, and then I started to play or to compose music for theater, mainly for dance theater. And I learned a lot during that, although I was kind of quite young, like a teenager, but I learned how all these elements of this different disciplines are melting together in theater, like light design, costumes, of course choreography and music. And I realized that each of these disciplines has total power. So for example, if you have a scene and you change the music, the scene can be twisted 100%. And that's why it was so important to, in such productions, to listen to each other and get inspired by each other, which I enjoyed a lot, and share the same vision. And I had the luck that at this early stage in my career, I worked together with a lot of people who trusted me and let me do what I think is right. And I got a lot of inspiration from these collaboration. I think it's still something that travels in my work, because when you do like 3D visualizations or this kind of environments, then it has to do with lighting. So all these kind of disciplines, like even costume design and stage design, are involved in such creations, although they are digital. But because they are digital, things can be done that are beyond the restrictions of physicality. So costume design can go to a level that is that works beyond, you know, the restriction of a real costume, but can affect the let's say the body itself, or the virtual representation itself. So a lot of inspiration from this time, although I was a musician, but I think this it influenced my work till now. This is another Chinese singer for which I created some kind of a surrounding tube that expresses the sound like moving around her. And this is actually a work for a Chinese theater in which on the lower level you see classical actors, and on the upper part of the stage you see a virtual representation of certain moods or undercurrent elements that happens in a scene, or some symbols like the bamboo stick, which is in Chinese culture a very important symbol that represents flexibility and strength. So I'm grabbing these symbols and create a additional narrative, like a meta-narrative with it on the upper part of the stage. At a certain point there is a scene, like a fighting scene, and this bamboo stick transforms into an army of warriors who then start to fight against each other. It's also very inspiring to work with this Chinese traditional opera, because in my opinion there are a lot of elements which are actually quite modern. For example, the actors they're all multidisciplinary educated, so they can sing very professional, almost like an opera singer. They can dance like a professional dancer. They even do their own makeup, so it's super skillful, and they go to a very, very long education in order to achieve all these technical levels. So here, these bamboo sticks being transformed into ghosts after the war. It's like a meta level of different elements that happens during the scene. And in this work, I was grabbing elements from traditional Chinese opera costumes and characters. Like there are signature characters like the warrior, the fox, the horse, and they have super rich costumes normally, and it's very hard to read the details if you're not if you're not a specialist. So I wanted to extract some of these details and to make it also more accessible to people who are not so familiar with these art forms, because if that is the case, sometimes it can be it's so rich that it sometimes can be a visual overflow. And while doing this kind of distilling of details and core elements, it turns out that those building blocks started also a lot in people who viewed that work from other cultures. So it seems there are some similarities underlying all these cultures, which are interconnecting something like costumes or movements in a universal manner. And this is the last work I would like to share. Is related to, it's actually an exhibition related to sustainable fashion. And it's a scenario in which I try to establish fashion growing from human-owned resources, basically from their skin. And so in order to sensitize people for a better responsibility towards these resources. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention at the end is time is over. Do you have another 2 minutes? Is that possible? Yeah, thanks. Because I'm often being asked what I have studied, and I haven't studied at all. I dropped off school quite early because I felt not very comfortable in school and felt wasting my time, but I had the luck that, as I said, my mother was a photographer. And she was also a single mom, so whenever she went to work, she brought me with her. And in order to keep me calm while she was working, she let me play in the darkroom. And what we see here on the right side is a machine that's in the darkroom, which is called Enlarger, and casts a light on a photosensitive paper, and everything that is exposed to that light becomes black, and everything that is not exposed to light on that paper remains white. So what I did is I was kind of collecting things on the way to the studio, like feathers or leaves or elements I found in the studio, and arranged it on that paper, and then put the paper into the chemicals. And then this magic moment happened where gradually the contours were fading in, and the area that was empty before became black, and the area that was covered by the items remained white. And it still was, I did that so often, but it was always like a magic moment. Yeah, I'm very thankful for, had the possibility to have so many magic creative moments, and my mother really encouraged me to experiment and gave me, on the other hand, a lot of freedom in terms of creativity, and a lot of confidence in even doing what I would like to do, even if it's a little bit crazy. And what you see here on the left side is actually on the top the two hands of my mother, and on the bottom the two little hands of mine at that time. So I was actually 4 years old, and this was probably my design education, graphic design education at the age of 4. Okay, this is all I wanted to share. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.